every story must have a beginning, a middle, and an end. However, in our quest to glimpse through the story of the universe, we're yet to figure out the beginning, and causality prevents us from knowing the end. Nonetheless, working our way from the middle, we can probe into the past and predict the future with a far more educated guess than was ever possible before. The small chapter present in our universe's story, named the Era of the Stars, seems to have nothing more than a brief mention of the term humanity. Yet, to us mere mortals, that term remains as the climax of the story. Around 4.5 billion years ago, this baby planet, which has now been named Earth, was formed by the dust from the shockwave of a supernova that formed our very own Sun. This planet, although hellish at the time, was destined to grow into a calm, tropical planet which would be capable of harboring life. As millenniums passed by, tiny living organisms, too small to be seen by the naked eye, began to flourish all over the world. Most of this life started off in the seas, but eventually, the varying conditions slowly caused the evolution of these tiny creatures, leading to complex life both within the seas and also on the land. Hundreds of thousands of species came and went as evolution carried on, resulting in the arrival of humanity. Although in no way is humanity yet to consider themselves an intelligent species, they certainly are the only ones we know till date who can ponder upon the questions, hoping to reveal the true nature of reality. It is here that certain Homo sapiens, who call themselves philosophers, began to question the very nature of everything around them. The giants such as Archimedes, Aristotle, and so on figured out that most of reality was actually deterministic. They pondered upon observations and determined the causes, allowing them to predict the future outcomes. They were pioneers of what we call science. Later, as the years passed by, these scientists began answering questions that humans yet did not know existed. They built tools to help investigate further and increase their reach. One such invention would prove to be pivotal in the understanding of the story of our universe. The telescope allowed scientists to observe distant objects in far more detail than was possible ever before. They understood the nature of the planets, their moons, and furthermore realized that they were merely in a galaxy surrounded by innumerable more galaxies. They also happened to notice that these galaxies seemed to be moving further away from us, no matter in which direction we looked. Through the many discussions and possibilities discussed, it was ascertained that the entire universe must be expanding. Like an inflating party balloon, we were merely the designs expanding along with the fabric of space-time. This was the first ray of hope that we would have in ever figuring out the beginning to the story of our universe. As the universe seemed to be expanding, reversing time would create an ever-shrinking universe, implying that it all began from a single, dense point that had all the ingredients necessary to create what we now call the universe. The physics works out all the way down to 10 to the power minus 43 seconds after what we now call the Big Bang. What happened before this? We ourselves cannot estimate, as physics itself refuses to obey its own laws in timescales so short. Why 10 to the power 43, you ask? Well, that is the Planck second, which is the time it would take for light to pass through one Planck length. Light being the fastest thing in the universe, and a Planck length being the smallest. Even though the true beginning eludes us for now, what happened after the first Planck second is very well mathematically documented, divided into eras formed by various epochs or epochs. The first era was the radiation or the primordial era. It consisted of 8 independent epochs, one after the other. The Planck epoch was the very first where every fundamental force was unified. Later, the grand unification epoch occurred, where gravity separated out. This left the strong, the weak, and the electromagnetic forces together as one single, unified force. Soon after that, the inflationary epoch occurred, where electrons, quarks, and other particles were finally formed as the strong nuclear force separated out from the unified force that we had earlier. Then, in the electroweak epoch, the final two forces also separated out into the weak nuclear force and the electromagnetic force. During the quark epoch, all the raw ingredients to form the universe were finally created, but it was still too hot for them to come together and form the particles that we're more familiar with today. However, in the hadron epoch, all that changed as the subatomic particles or hadrons were finally formed. Finally, in the last two epochs, the lepton and the nuclear epoch, atoms finally began their formation, leading to a whole new era in the universe, the Ferrous Era. The Ferrous Era itself has 3 epochs till now, starting with the atomic epoch, where the first molecules of hydrogen were created along with more helium. Then came the galactic epoch, where gravity began asserting its dominance, even though it was and is the weakest of the 4 fundamental forces. This gravity began forming clouds of gas called nebulae, along with bright quasars and massive stars. These were all the building blocks required for the next epoch, the stellar epoch. Here, in the stellar epoch, galaxies formed with millions of stars, black holes, planets, satellites, life, and humans. As you look out into the night sky, every point of light you observe in the vast, unclouded skies reside within the time frame of this stellar epoch. The farther away you look, using more and more powerful telescopes, the further back in time you happen to be observing. Even then, the earliest we can travel back lies within nothing beyond the steady Ferrous Era, with most of it lying within the boundaries of the stellar epoch. We reside within the stellar epoch and can only predict what's yet to come. Although the climax is pretty much over for humanity, the story of the universe has just begun. Towards the end of the Stelliferous era, stars would have exhausted their nuclear fuel, placing an end to the universe we're so familiar with. This would lead to the Degenerate Era. This would be the era of black holes, still accompanied by the remnants of once luminous stars, now dead in the form of white dwarfs. And also there would be failed stars such as brown dwarfs. These would continue for years beyond human comprehension, possibly till 10 to the power 39 years. But after that, even these stars will slowly blow off. For about 10 to the power 60 years after the death of the last star, black holes will reign over the universe as they slowly evaporate away in what's known as the black hole era. The universe would be dark. However, from time to time, as a black hole finally evaporates completely in its final stages, it goes off with a bang, radiating high levels of energy, a bright flash, a glimmer, reminding the universe of its once bright past, now long forgotten. Beyond a staggering Google years, every last black hole would have evaporated. The few reminders of a bright past would be gone forever. Just darkness will remain for whatever is to happen to the fate of the universe. An eternal void that had once harbored humanity. Whatever it be, the universe started dark, and it will continue to be dark for Googles of years. We happen to live in a tiny era of just a few trillion years where the universe has stars to light up our nights and the sun to illuminate our days. We're here during a blink of light in a lifetime of darkness in cosmic proportions. So make what you may and use this time wisely as it slowly comes to an end. When talking about the future, the uncertainties are indefinitely high, which is contrary to what some scientists may have you believe at times. The leading theories that explain over 68% of the universe resort to dark energy. Yet, contending theories do pop up from time to time. None have yet succeeded in finding an alternative to dark energy, but only time will tell if dark energy itself can stand the test of time. Dark energy and its evolution over time determines the fate of the universe. If dark energy was to increase, much like what has happened in the past, the universe will rip to shreds in what's called the Big Rip. Every galaxy cluster will be torn apart before the galaxies themselves perish. Even further, the solar systems, the planets, the molecules, the atoms, the very building blocks themselves will all tear apart gradually, leading to individual particles of matter flowing indefinitely in the vastness of nothingness for eternity. In a lesser gruesome fate, if dark energy was to eventually match gravity and remain as such, the universe would continue on its path towards an ever-increasing entropy or disorder. All of the universe's useful energy will dissipate and spread more and more evenly throughout space. This would lead to what's called the Big Freeze, where every last star has perished, every last black hole has evaporated, and every last unique portion of space has diffused into an exact copy of every tiny space around it, leading to a universe of photons zooming around, indistinguishable from anywhere else. In a third, grisly possible end, gravity wins over, pulling everything together once again. Every star, black hole, galaxy, and cluster would converge to a point, creating a singularity containing everything in our entire universe. This would be known as the Big Crunch. What lies in the fate of that black hole, one can only imagine, which would lead to the final possible fate. The ratio of the strengths of the four fundamental forces determine the possibilities of forming molecules, planets, galaxies, and life, all determined in less than a second after the Big Bang. Had things gone a tad bit differently, we would not have been here to discuss it. Molecules may have never formed. Stars, galaxies, and planets would all be concepts of science fiction. The possibilities of what may have happened remain innumerable and unimaginable. Yet, life may have still emerged, hopefully to a universe less hostile to its guests, who might dare to someday answer the same questions we ponder upon today. The final fate is a more hopeful one, not for humanity or any civilization who tried to exist through it, but for the universe as a whole, known as the Big Bounce. This hypothesis imagines that after the entire universe converges to a point at the end of the Big Crunch, a new Big Bang will occur. An explosion creating the birth of an all-new universe. A new era. New laws. new possibilities, and a new chance for life to evolve once again.